Hey everyone, my name is Penny Zanker, and it's time to reset. This podcast goes beyond just navigating change. It's about new ways of thinking about how you can approach challenges, how you can shift your mindset when needed, create some space and grace for yourself so that you can rethink, recharge, and reprioritize when and where needed. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Thank you for hitting play and sharing this next episode with me. It's time to reset. Hello and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zanker and I'm your host. And on this show, we are looking to help you to work smarter, to find that life balance that you're so desperately seeking. And today we have experts with us that are going to help to shed some new light on that. Robert and Kaylee Fukui. Yay, I did it. They are co-founders of I-61 Inc., a business consulting company, and they assist married entrepreneurs to create work-life balance by structuring the business to scale while giving precious time back to the owner to invest in their marriage. And by the way, for those of you who aren't married, I think you're going to find some tips here as well. So don't get hung up with that.
Yeah.
And together they've developed an innovative consulting program, Power Couples by Design, and it equips married entrepreneurs to build thriving marriages and prosperous businesses. They also have authored a book, Tandem, the Married Entrepreneur's Guide for Greater Work-Life Balance. So I think if married couples can find work-life balance when they're working together, then anybody can, right? So welcome to the show, you two.
Thank
Penny.
you,
Penny, for having us. Yeah, relationships are relationships, whether you're married or not.
Well, and they're harder, right? I mean, there's even more that you're bringing to the table whether you're married or whether you're siblings, right? So that can be the case where you're running the business together with other family members. And the challenge is we're more easily hurt. You know, we're more sensitive, we're more vulnerable, I believe, to the people that are closest to us. So maybe we just start there. Like, what are some of the differences and challenges that you see from married couples and families working together versus just people who aren't connected in that way?
Well, the common denominator is relationships. And so regardless if you're married or not, you're working with your spouse, you're not working with your spouse, you're working with a sibling, your parents, whatever, it always boils down to relationships. And the health of the relationship in your business will kind of basically dictate the trajectory and the growth of the business. And so regardless if you're single or married, working together or not, this is a key issue. And having balance obviously is something that's challenging for a lot of people because I think there's a lack of understanding, or sometimes there's a myth that when you're talking about building a business, that the common message out there is you have to sacrifice your personal life to grow a business. And so we just kind of believe it, right?
Now, sure, everybody's saying it. And we feel that everybody talks about how you have to grind, right? You've got to put in your time and things like that. So are you saying that's not true? We don't have to do that?
Not if that's not the way you want to live. I mean, the only reason why entrepreneurs are in the grind or get caught up in the grind and say, we got to do this is because you feel the weight of the business on your shoulders, right? Everything lives and dies by you. So because you feel that pressure, you just feel like you've always got to be on.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's too much research, both on the productivity side and the health side, that says the human body has to have periods of rest in order to be at peak performance, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And if you don't do that, things are going to fall. Things are going to fail. And so we got to just stop believing a lie and look at, you're all about productivity, taking back your time. It's how do you accomplish more without working more?
Okay. So tell us, how do we do that? Thank you. Drop the mic, right? So how do we do that? I mean, there is pressure. The markets are changing. And with that change, there's more competition, right? There's all of these pressures that these entrepreneurs are facing. So what's your top tip? We'll get to some of the other ones, but what's the number one thing? If we stop the show right now, what's the one thing you have to make sure that everybody hears?
Well, I think from a business perspective and a life perspective is increase your margin of time and money. So for the time piece, like for business, right? Instead of one sale at a $5,000 price point, what about one sale at $10,000 price point? I just got off the phone with a painter. He's 3 years in business, doing pretty well, but his cash flow is not very good. And I said, why don't we get your average sales price or sales average contract from $6,000 to $7,000 or $8,000? that means your revenue is going to be bigger without having to do more work, right? And so that increases not just time margin, but profit margin, because you're not having to grind it out and going from one job to another, maybe two jobs to get equal the cost of one job, those kind of things. So if you take a step back and think about margin, then we're on the right track.
So I want to talk to the point where you said take a step back. So I'm celebrating in September that my new book, The Reset Mindset, is coming out. And one of the steps of the reset practice is to step back, right? We're so lost in what we're doing, right? That we don't have what the second step is we don't have perspective. It helps us when we step back to really get perspective so that we can, number 3, realign around the most important thing. So what I'm hearing you say, right, is if nothing else, right, is step back, look at your business, look at for the opportunities of margins, and then really focus, realign and focus around where you can increase margin. That's going to be your biggest and quickest win, right?
Mm-hmm. At least it tells you where to start, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You know, I used to do a lot of executive coaching, and I come from that same mindset, is step back and look at what is the greatest use of your time and money. And the first thing would be definitely to increase margin, right? And then what can you do with more money when you have more cash flow is you can also get more people to support you to take more things away from you so that you can delegate more. So now you have even more time available, right? So that you can focus on the things that matter most for your work.
Well, an example is that we love going to the beach. And so last week, Robert's like, we have a weekly meeting, the two of us. He said, why don't we go to the beach and have our meeting? And it was so nice to get away. We still had the meeting, but you're in a different atmosphere. We came up with some great ideas that we probably wouldn't have if we were at home doing the same old, same old. Sometimes it's just nice to get a break or a rest. And you'd be surprised how the creativity will just come back to you.
I love what you're saying. And I want to even stay there for a second because changing our environment is huge, right? Even though you were working, you were going to have the meeting. So you weren't fully resting, but changing the location can make a huge difference in creating that reset and recharging or generating more creativity, right? So did you find yourself more creative on the beach there?
Definitely. We came up with some great ideas for the rest of this year. And we're like, oh, this is nice. And in a sense, it kind of was a little rest for us because it's something we both enjoy and energizes us. It makes us feel good. It's our happy place.
Yeah. And you look at the psychology research around this is when you're in a rested, peaceful state, basically, I want to maybe not say rest because when you say rest, people think you're sleeping or taking a nap, right? But when you're more in a peaceful state, you are more creative. I mean, the research shows that you are more creative, more innovative. That's when your mind is going crazy versus when you're in the grind. And like you said, even if we stayed at home but had our meeting, but in that familiar environment, we feel like we're in that grind and we're just more thinking about the things at hand as opposed to being more forward-looking and more creative.
So what would you say? How often should people change their space and get out of their daily workspace?
Well, I would say probably at least like once a week. Like our weekly meetings are at a coffee shop anyway. So we always get out of our space on a weekly version. And then last year, we try to do once a month for our weekly meeting, go to the beach. We haven't done it as much this year. So that's why it was good that we finally got to do it this summer. But we try to do like a once a month. Let's get out of even that space just to change it up. So, to each its own. But I think you've got to come into a regular cadence. And I think at least once a week, even if it's just for an hour, hour and a half, to just change your environment and think, journal, whatever, brainstorm with your team or with your partner, whatever it is, it's just always helpful. And I've never heard anyone say that it wasn't helpful.
Totally.
We even do like quarterly getaways. Robert's really good about putting it on the calendar. Otherwise, if it was up to me, it just wouldn't happen because I'm like, yeah, it's a good idea. We'll do that. But he's like, he puts it on the calendar so it happens. And our family puts it on the calendar. It just doesn't seem to magically appear. And
I don't think that's just for your family. I think if you don't put it on the calendar, other things tend to take up that space, right? So it's Parkinson's law, right? Whatever you have is going to gobble up everything, every space, unless you are more mindful and intentional about how you're using it.
Absolutely.
Talking about that work-life balance. So coming back to that as a point, what do you think are some of the ways that we can approach work-life balance maybe differently than the way we have in the past?
Well, I think it starts with, because, every time you come up with say this word work-life balance, you get all kinds of stuff and emotions. And so first we got to define it. It's not measured by quantity. It's not a quantitative measurement. It's a qualitative measurement. It's quality, not quantity. So it's not about how much time you put here or there. It's about the quality of time. So obviously the business, in order for it to grow or just to thrive, you need to spend quality time in it, not spend all your time, but quality time. And then the personal side, your relationship, it's also quality time. And we tend to overestimate how much time it takes on both ends, both business and marriage or relationships, in order for it to thrive. Especially on the relationship side, we think it's going to take 8 hours a day or something like that, right? We have to have this storybook relationship and we spend all this time at home. But when you look at even the psychology research, John and Julie Gottman are big marriage and family therapists, and they talk about 5 minutes a day with your spouse, like intentional time, not like 5 minutes, you're on the phone or in between meals, whatever, but you sit down, look eye to eye and say positive affirmations and ask, how can I serve you? If you do that every day, right, you're going to stay connected, feel loved and appreciated, and you'll know how to serve your spouse. It goes both ways.
I agree with that. And I question whether 5 minutes is enough to serve your spouse in the way that, is there anything there that from your experience or from what they talk about, how are you to do that in as little as 5 minutes? Or
it's not to say that's the only time you spend, but we're talking about quality time, right?
Right.
That quality time sets the tone for the relationship and how can I serve her during the day or she serves me.
So that you're tuning in. So you're giving 5 minutes to tune into each other.
Because you don't do that.
Right.
And then hopefully it turns into more to 5 minutes, but you're starting with 5 minutes. Like, okay, I want to see how your day is. How are you doing? And then hopefully once your partner starts opening up to you, you give them a little bit more time than that. But
yeah, because we're talking about what's the bare minimum, or they're talking about what's the bare minimum, because there are periods in our business and our life when it's going to be busier than others. Right? There's no going around. It's not to say that our life, we're trying to design your life so it's always the same every day. It's like Groundhog's Day, right? That's not what we're saying. But we're saying regardless of how busy life and business can get, what is that quality moment and time you can give your spouse, each other, and your kids every day? And 5 minutes is not a lot. In fact, we had a multi-billionaire on our show a while back, and he's also a big entertainment lawyer. But anyways, he talks about every day, every morning, he talks to his wife, calls his mom, and he gives each of his 3 kids 5 minutes. Right. And so we're thinking, I'm on the other end going, that's not a lot, kind of like what you're thinking.
Right.
And he said, I give them 5 minutes. I allot 5 minutes. They give me 3.
For the teenagers.
so actually,
true for teenagers.
It's actually, he's given more time than really is needed. But the thing is that the kids know that dad is available. That's the key thing, right? It wasn't the amount of time. It was the quality.
And like we can put the phone down. We can give you just our complete attention and we're present. There, we're not thinking about, oh my gosh, I got laundry to do. I got all this work. So it's active listening.
just really tuning into one another. That's an art today, right? It's with all the phone's notifications and everything that's vying for our attention. It's important that you're really.
And since you talked about phone, we have more control over our time than I think we give ourselves credit for.
Absolutely.
Phones and notifications, it's off. Right? Dinner time, it's off. In fact, we don't even bring the phone to the dinner table.
Right.
You just you keep it in the office or in the drawer or whatever. Those little things, because we're like Pavlov's dog when it comes to electronics, notifications, right? Bing, no matter what we're doing, we need to pick up. We need to answer, right? And so
I need to keep checking 100 times a day. Oh, did I get a text? Did I get a text?
It's an addiction. I mean, it is what it is today, right? It's the dopamine release. It creates a chemical addiction.
So if we create some boundaries and take back control of our time, and it kind of I remember I do Saturdays as my Sabbath on electronics, no phone, no social media, all that stuff. I remember the first Saturday I did this, you kind of get the cold sweats after a couple hours. You want to pick up the phone, but you say, no, I'm not supposed to. And it's like, I don't know what I'm expecting. Like I'm going to miss some important thing. By the end of the day though, you're like, that was nice.
Yeah.
Right. And it took a couple weekends for it to just be natural and not have that jittery feeling. But it's amazing how much control we can take back if we allow ourselves to do that.
And time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what do you think is different going forward, right? So we've got our phones, we've got the technology, but that's where we are today. Do you see anything changing into the future as to how work-life balance looks different in the future? Now that we're working at home, right? And boundaries are down?
Yeah, I think it'll be more competition for our time. I don't think how we appreciate work-life balance, like just being with each other, going on trips, resting, being at peace, right? That part doesn't change as far as our body's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual needs. But the competition for that time is going to change. As technology changes and life changes and the world changes, there's just more competition. And it's funny, electronics, the phone, computers, apps, and all that, those are all supposed to be things that are supposed to make our life easier, yet we consume more of it and it's taking up more of our time, right? I mean, we use apps and AIs and stuff for business and all that. But if I'm not careful, and I've already slipped down this road before, I just subscribe to one thing after another, and I'm using so much stuff, so much technology that's actually taking up more time because I'm just getting addicted to technology.
Yeah.
And so I think it's more the change that's going to happen is more about what's competing for your time.
Yeah. I think what we're seeing over time is fewer structures that support us, that if we had transitions that we used to have that we don't have anymore, whether it's the commute to the office or we had the cubicles, that kept us. So we had spaces for ourselves that were protective. And so it falls back on us. And I think that's more and more, it's up to us to set those boundaries, and we're terrible at setting them. Absolutely. So we're going to have to really become good at setting those boundaries. Otherwise, it's just going to get worse and worse, right? And that's a big challenge. So we're coming to the end of our time. I don't even know where it's gone. Speaking of, time. So I ask every guest this now as I'm launching this new book of mine, just to get different perspectives. So without having much knowledge of what the concept is, how would you define a reset mindset, and why is that important to entrepreneurs and their business?
Yeah. Oh, great question. So the first thing that comes to mind is a reset mindset it's almost taking a step back. It's almost like you click the reset button on your phone or whatever. And a lot of times we need to do that because we get married to our own ideas, right? And when we get married to our ideas and our thinking and all that, limited growth happens. And then we get so much clutter, right? That starts to slow a RAM down, to talk about computer analogy or metaphor. Totally. And so the reset is almost doing that factory reset. It's putting back things into the factory norm that allows more bandwidth and even more space to take on better information or a better way of doing life and doing business. So that's the first thing that came to mind.
Great. Love it.
And I would say, like we were talking about, give yourself some rest so that you can get into that place where you can look at things from a different perspective. I do a lot of journaling to try and do that myself because, something, before you might be upset about something and then you start journaling, you're like, okay, let's try and look at this from a different point of view, or maybe try and get up above it and see how else we could do this.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's such a simple question, but so powerful. Could we look at this? How else could we do this? Yeah, absolutely. So tell me where people can find out more information about you and your programming.
I think if you just go to our website, marriedentrepreneur.co. There's everything's there. It's our book, Tandem, The Married Entrepreneur's Guide for Greater Work-Life Balance, our podcast, Thriving in Tandem. And of course, if you're looking for help, our coaching packages are in there as well. And you can schedule a complimentary discovery call.
Yeah. And with our book, you can get the first chapter for free if you go to thetandembook.com.
Fantastic. We'll have all of those links in the show notes for sure. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being here.
Penny, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, Penny.
Thanks for the great questions.
And thank you all for being here. A couple of important things for you to reflect on about how that can support you. Are you focusing on the margins of your time and your money? Whether you're running a business or whether you're a leader in an organization or even a parent at home, right? These are still relevant in terms of what's margin for you, right? And I say that in quotes if you're listening and not watching. So what were your takeaways? What's one thing that you can put into practice that can help you feel more balanced? Maybe it's getting out of the office once a week. So to do that, working on your business or on your family, getting out of that space where maybe some of the stresses and the pressures lie and finding yourself a little bit freer. Whatever it is for you, write it down, put it into action. And that's how you're going to see results, is what I call reset moment at a time. So thank you all for being here. My name is Penny Zanker, and this is Take Back Time. We'll see you in the next episode. Hey, thank you for spending this time with me. It really means a lot. If you're feeling a little off, distracted, overwhelmed, stuck, or just out of sync, remember that's your signal to reset. And that's all it takes, just recognizing one reset moment at a time. So stay tuned for more tips, tools, tricks, stories, strategies, all here on Time to Reset. We'll see you in the next episode.